The top of the farm news brought to you this morning by the Farmers Union Livestock Commission Company, the Farmers Union Central Exchange, and the Farmers Union Insurance Company, and reported by WNAX Farm Director Creighton Knau.
In the top of the farm news this morning, the 1963 feed grain program details are announced. South Dakota's Farmers Union president is in Washington, and the American Farm Bureau president comments on feed grain reserves for national defense. First, though, consigning livestock to the Farmers Union Livestock Commission of Sioux Falls has been a natural thing to do for thousands of South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa livestock growers. The reputation of this outstanding livestock selling agency has spread far and wide, and today there is no longer any need for wondering about the marketing of your livestock. Whether you ship one hog or a carload of cattle, you always get the same fair, courteous treatment at Farmers Union. You get the same skilled selling representation from men who know livestock and livestock values. Turn the important job of selling your livestock over to the men who work only for the best interests of the livestock producers. To have a Farmers Union Livestock Commission representative of Sioux Falls visit your farm, simply mail a postcard to WNAX Farm Department with your name, address, and phone number, and print Farmers Union Livestock. You'll find it'll pay and pay again. The Agriculture Department has moved to slow down its acreage reduction program for feed grains. The reasoning behind this slowdown is simple. Feed grain surpluses have been cut sharply by the 1961 and 62 reduction programs, and next fall at the end of the 1962 marketing season, carryover stocks of feed grains will be down to about 57 million tons. 14 million tons below the stock on hand this fall. If 1963 acreage is reduced enough to force another cut of 14 million tons in feed stocks, the carryover in October of 64 then would be down to about 43 million tons. And Agriculture Secretary Freeman doesn't want to go that far. Freeman said this past week that a desirable feed grain carryover would be something about 45 million tons. These figures indicate that the USDA is hoping for a 1963 feed grain crop a little above the size of this year's crop, aiming for a crop which should cut surpluses by about 10 million tons. So this means a smaller reduction than we're getting this year, and it means the USDA doesn't want to sign up quite as many feed grain acres in the diversion program next year. The actual size of the sign-up is something that no one can forecast right now, of course. The acreage reduction program is voluntary, and farmers will decide for themselves whether to get into the program. Some of the key details of the 1963 feed grain program, and of course it applies to corn, grain, sorghums, and barley. In order to qualify for price supports, growers must agree to retire at least 20% of their 1959-60 combined base acreage of these three feed grains, and growers can retire up to 40% of their base or up to 25 acres, whichever is greater. The price support rates are based on the rate for corn. The corn price support loan rate will be an average of $1.02 a bushel. Then on top of this, there will be a payment in kind of 18 cents a bushel, so the total price support for corn will be $1.20 a bushel. For barley, a price support loan of 79 cents, a payment in kind of 14 cents, and then a total price support of 93 cents a bushel. For grain sorghums, a price support loan of $1.62 per hundredweight, a payment of 29 cents per hundredweight for the payment in kind, and total price support of $1.91 a hundredweight. Now, the acreage diversion payment rates. In 1962, farmers were paid 50% of the value of their normal yield for diverting the first 20% of their acreage. In 1963, the diversion payment on the 20% acreage cut goes down to 20% of the normal return for the land. Well, several provisions of the 1963 program include changes from this year's operation. Growers eligible for price support will get diverted or direct payments on the full normal production. That's direct payments on their 1963 harvested acreage, and that income for the farmer whether he harvests a full crop or not. Then farmers who sign up in the program can get price support loans on all the feed grains they produce. They will not be limited to the production of their acreage in 1961. And the growers who sign up under the 1963 program will lose all payments and price supports if they fail to divert the full acreage in their agreements. 31 years of progress have brought the Farmers Union Central Exchange from the role of a struggling young cooperative wholesale distributor of farm supplies to the position of the Northwest's largest regional farm supply cooperative involved in producing, refining, and manufacturing as well as distributing. 850 locally controlled retail cooperatives dotting the northern plains now share ownership of the Central Exchange, including 164 co-ops in South Dakota. The members of these local companies are 350,000 farm families operating family-sized units from Wisconsin to the state of Washington. So it'll pay you, too, to join them in the Farmers Union Central Exchange. Visit the Soil Service Center at Ellis, South Dakota, near Sioux Falls, and find out about their unique bulk fertilizer blending system. Ben Radcliffe, South Dakota Farmers Union president, is in Washington this week, where he is chairman of a National Farmers Union Committee working on feed grain proposals that the organization will submit to Congress next year. The president of South Dakota's largest farm organization said before leaving for Washington that National Farmers Union is consulting with the other farm organizations before any proposals are made. Radcliffe said it is hoped that the farm organizations will present a united front at the next session of Congress. Any proposals will be made in line with Farmers Union program of increasing farm income while holding down farm surpluses and the cost of the farm program. That's according to Mr. Radcliffe. Those serving on the Feed Grain Committee, along with Mr. Radcliffe, are the Farmers Union presidents from Indiana, the Illinois Farmers Union, Nebraska, and the Iowa Farmers Union president. The American Farm Bureau Federation has a different idea about reserves of feed grains, even in the area of reserves for emergency use. In an interview with Charles Schuman, president of the American Farm Bureau Federation, this reporter had this answer given to him in answer to a question about reserves for an emergency.
Well, I think the best place for a reserve of food and fiber in agriculture against the possibility of war or any other emergency is in our productive soil, our efficient livestock population, and the normal channels of trade. We do not need, in my opinion, a single pound of any farm commodity in government storage. Oh, I would accept what the Army, Navy had in the process of getting ready for the servicemen to eat, but as far as protecting the civilian population, if they store it in these warehouses, it's liable to be contaminated anyway, and how do they know what we're going to need? It's best to keep our agricultural plant flexible and pliable and ready to respond to needs as reflected in the market, and we'll be much stronger that way than if we pile it all up in storage bins.
Those were the opinions of Charles Schuman, president of the American Farm Bureau Federation. Well, everyone knows that farmers need a lot of equipment and technical know-how to successfully operate a farm. But the modern farmer also knows that in addition to equipment and know-how, he needs a strong organization to represent him in the national and state capitals. He knows that in this highly organized society of ours, every economic group has an organization to speak up for their best interests. Farmers need to strengthen theirs, and that's why Farmers Union members urge you to join with your neighbors. A total larger membership in the Farmers Union, they feel, will help make every farmer's voice stronger in the legislative halls. Several thousand South Dakota families are already active Farmers Union members. How about your family? Talk over the benefits you need for farm representation, and then join your neighbors in belonging to the South Dakota Farmers Union, the organization dedicated to improving farm life for every farm family.
This has been the Top of the Farm News, brought to you by the Farmers Union Livestock Commission Company, the Farmers Union Central Exchange, and the Farmers Union Insurance Company, and reported by WNAX Farm Director Creighton Knau.